Hi, this is John Rowell for the Rowell Report. Today is Thursday, January 15th, 2026. And did you know that President Trump is saving Chavismo? I I would imagine you thought that he was going to do everything in his power to destroy Chavismo and to remove all semblance of Chavismo in Venezuela. But wait, he's not doing that. In fact, he is saving it. So let me ask you first a question. What would have happened to Venezuela if Nicolas Maduro would have continued on in power, leading the country? So, according to many people, Nicolas Maduro was mismanaging the oil sector as he focused on trying to uh, keep Cuba going financially. So I guess he was moving Peter to pay Paul. So he was starving one sector of the um, of their income to try to prop up the economic life in Cuba. Now, I don't know the truth of that, but it certainly is what many say. So let's just assume that that is true, and that Nicolas Maduro was a little bit too absorbed by Cuba and not focused enough on the situation in Venezuela. So I'm not saying that that is true or not, but we have an individual there, the vice president, called Delcy Rodriguez, and Delcy Rodriguez is extremely competent. She was the finance minister, she was the oil minister, and she has leadership qualities. She is cool under pressure. So we have this situation where President Trump decides, I'm going to take Nicolas Maduro, and the whole Chavismo is going to fall apart. The people will rise up and they will remove this Chavismo leaders from power, and we will go back to the status quo, which is puppet politicians obeying foreign oil company demands and rules, and signing away their country's national resources in one-sided contracts with these oil companies. So that was the idea that many people had. But wait, there was a problem, because after President Trump had removed Nicolas Maduro, he realized, hey, all those oil companies who I was opening the door to Venezuela for, they don't want to enter in. They don't want to go into Venezuela because the many years of disrepair apparently is in the oil sector would require so much of an investment that they would be losing money rather than making money, and the CEOs are there to make money for the company, not to lose money. So anyway, President Trump's thinking, we have this person who took power after Nicolas Maduro was removed, and Delcy Rodriguez, and she's competent. She's a leader, she's practical, but pragmatic. She's willing to work with the United States. At the same time, she's capable of running a solid government. So this person who apparently President Trump thought would be a great leader of Venezuela, Maria Corina Machado, suddenly she started to drop down the totem pole a little bit. So and Delcy Rodriguez started to go up the totem pole. So anyway, we suddenly realized that now we're in this situation where we could have a win-win. Venezuela resurrects its oil industry. It carries out the repairs that are needed on their equipment, At the same time, the United States oil companies or other foreign companies will have the possibility of eventually returning to Venezuelan oil fields with repaired equipment, and they don't have to, throw the kitchen sink at the at repairing, every oil extraction point that has fallen into disrepair and getting that resurrected. So suddenly we're looking at the situation of, Delcy Rodriguez as being the top of the list. She is number one priority for President Trump, because he's looking for someone who can get the U.S. oil companies back into Venezuela, but they're not going to go back in if the oil facilities are in disrepair and require too much of an investment. So, and then now let me ask you a question. How long do you think Nicolas Maduro would have been in power if he would have continued on in control of Venezuela? Because the role of president in the Chavismo is kind of like vitalicio, like for life. So Chavez basically was leader until he died, and Nicolas Maduro would be leader until he died. But if he was as inept as some people thought he was, and mismanaging things as much as some people thought he was, then he would have run the country into the ground, and Chavismo would have ended on its own without any foreign intervention. The people would have rose up and would have taken the control of the government and would, come up with a new political system. So what basically President Trump did was he intervened in this process of this dying dinosaur, if you want to call it that, and he saved the Chavismo from its own demise. And not only that, he put into power the most capable individual that could be in that position. And you know what? The person that is most worried about this whole situation is the very same Maria Corina Machado, who was kind of a shoo-in at one point to take control of Venezuela. And now she's, dropping down the totem pole. And it's like, President Trump, here's the Nobel Peace Prize medal. Take it, keep it. It's yours. You won it. It's, you've brought peace to Venezuela, and all I ask in return is that you put me in power in Venezuela. And President Trump is like, you know what? Have you ever spent a day in your life on an oil platform? Do you know anything about oil extraction? Do you know about the whole financial situation, how that's managed? Have you ever managed anything financially more than maybe a small personal bank account? Have you managed, the investments, billions of dollars of investments? Maria Corina Machado seems to be like this, this idealistic individual who was willing to do anything to get to power, but the one thing that she couldn't do was give herself the financial ability and knowledge to be competent enough to be able to be the top dog on that totem pole. And unfortunately, she's dropped down that totem pole, and Delcy Rodriguez has gone up. So President Trump is saying, look, this is a good situation for Venezuela and for us, because eventually Venezuela will start to repair and rejuvenate their oil extraction, their oil industry, and then the U.S. oil companies can return to Venezuela. I will fulfill a campaign promise, and they won't have to pay a dime to get the equipment back up to where they should be. It'll all be done for them. They'll just come back, and there will be a a win-win agreement between Venezuela and the oil companies. So this is basically going to keep Chavismo in power. So you're thinking, no, President Trump was elected and came into the presidency with the promise to remove Chavismo. So look what he did. He took Nicolas Maduro out of power, who would have been like a president for life. And some people say that he was mismanaging the oil sector terribly. So he would have run the country into the ground, according to the way some see it. And then Chavismo would have died. It would have been over. But no, he saved Chavismo because he removed the person who could never have been removed internally in Venezuela, because as long as Nicolas Maduro was in power, he would just keep on getting reelected and reelected and reelected and reelected. So Delcy Rodriguez would not be able to get to the point where she could make the decisions, the important decisions that need to be made to resurrect their oil sector, and so the whole country would have gone into a decline, and maybe Delcy Rodriguez would move overseas and get a teaching position at Cambridge, Harvard, University of Southern California or something, and that talent that she has would have been lost. But now what President Trump did was that he saved Chavismo, and he put Delcy Rodriguez into power, and now we will see Venezuela start to become again resurrecting from the ashes. So if you think that President Trump will end Chavismo, I think the reality is the opposite. He's going to not only save it, but he will keep it in power for a very long time. So anyway, that is my video. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you back for future videos. Take care. Bye-bye.